Hello, and welcome to American Motherhood, the podcast where we explore how society and politics shape the motherhood experience in America. Today, we're continuing our local election series as we get to know our candidates on the ballot this fall for Westerville, Ohio. This is our 8th interview, with 5 more still to come. Today, I'm joined by Preston Stapleton, candidate for Westerville City Council. He shares what inspired him to run, how being both a professional and a parent has shaped his leadership style, and where he hopes to contribute most on council. We talk through his priorities: open communication, thoughtful economic growth, preserving green space, and community safety, as well as how he plans to approach challenges like traffic, fiscal responsibility, and building consensus in a growing, diverse community. My goal with this series is to make local elections more accessible for you, the voters. If you find this helpful, please share the episode with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And if you'd like to join the conversation, you can always reach me at americanmotherhood@gmail.com. Okay, let's dive in. Preston, thank you so much for being here. I want to start by saying that I thought the Chamber of Commerce candidate forum was really great last week. We got to hear differing views and overall visions for Westerville, right? But today I'm excited to get to know more about you and your background and your qualifications. So if we can start there by you telling us about yourself.
Sure. I appreciate that, Bethany. Appreciate the invitation to be on the podcast with you today. So a little bit about Preston. I came down to Westerville in 1994. I grew up in Ashland, Ohio, which is actually the world headquarters of Nice People.
Right. I've seen the sign.
Yes. And when I tell people that's the first thing that they say is, "Oh, I saw that sign off the highway." Right. And the only people that don't believe that are my friends. They're like, "There's no way." But I graduated high school in 94 in Ashland, and I came down, enrolled at Otterbein when it was still college. And that's when I moved into Westerville here. And, from that point forward, I just loved Westerville. It took, maybe a minute to get accustomed to it, to get used to it. Westerville is a lot like Ashland, where I grew up, actually. It's a small town with a university and a great community feel. The people there love their neighborhoods. They just love the town. And I see that a lot in Westerville. So during the time at Otterbein, I played a little bit of football for a year. And then after that, I just continued my college career. I met my wife in college, studied public relations and communications, minor in business. After my sophomore year, pretty much just worked full-time while I went to college. So I was able to balance the full-time college load and work 40 hours a week, actually, at BP, because BP had college tuition reimbursement.
Oh, wow.
So as long as you worked a certain amount of hours and maintained a certain GPA, they would reimburse you for your tuition costs. So it was a no-brainer. My first job out of college was with CompUSA, the computer retailer store that was at Easton when they were just starting to open up. Was a software manager and a warehouse manager there. Becky and I actually started dating at that time. We had met in college, but didn't really date until after college. And we got together, got engaged, actually proposed to her in front of Towers Hall at homecoming on one of the Saturdays.
That's great.
And so we've been married this year will actually be 24 years. We have 3 daughters. Oldest goes to Ohio State. Second oldest is at OU. So it'll be a fun weekend coming up this weekend with OU playing Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then my youngest is in middle school. So I've been a high school football official for 15 years. I hung up the cleats right before COVID. So people ask me if I have thick skin, and I'm like, 15 years as an official with parents and people and coaches screaming at you. I was like, I'm all right with that. But there's nothing better than a football Friday night. I told my 2 oldest girls if they ever had to write a thesis or an essay, they should write it on Football Friday night. And they said, we don't like football. And I'm like, Football Friday night encompasses so much more than just a game of football. I was like, all week you've got the buildup of the community getting ready for it. The band is out there practicing. The people are getting the field together. The cheerleaders are practicing. And then, Friday night comes, you've got the band, you've got concession stands and the hot dogs and the brats, and the community comes together, and there's just an atmosphere. And I haven't even said one thing about playing. It's just what it engulfs the community. And I always thought that would be a good thesis, looking at it from that perspective, and what the game, how it brings in the community. So,
Right.
so like I said, 3 girls that came up through the Westerville school system, 2 in college now, 1 in middle school. I've been in the business world going on almost 30 years now. I graduated 22. I'm going to be 50 in February. Various roles of management, leadership. I actually was an adjunct faculty member at Columbus State for about 4 or 5 years. I taught ethics and leadership, principles of management, and introduction to leadership. Did that. The girls started getting a little bit bigger and started doing more things. So, that cuts into some time. And then,
Right.
but I loved it. It was a great experience. So I've just done a lot of different things, which I think has kind of rounded me out into the person that I am today. So today, I've been in the banking financial industry for last 17 years. First 15 was with Huntington.
Okay.
I started as just a personal banker, branch manager, and then I worked in the risk department. And then after that, I realized I didn't want to stare at Excel spreadsheets 10 hours a day.
Sure.
Was not my thing. Went into small business banking and business banking at Huntington. And then 2 years ago, I had an opportunity to join a community bank, Middlefield Banking Company. I work in Uptown Westerville now. September 11th will be 2 years exactly that I was hired and started. So when I got out of college, I had always had a little bit of inclination or burning to be something in the political realm. But I had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And then Becky and I got together, and then we have kids, and then 18, 19 years later, here we are. That brings me back to getting hired and working in Uptown Westerville. I covered Indiana for Huntington the 5 years prior, 5 to 6 years. So I had no network, no contact base here in Ohio. But I took the opportunity with Community Bank because it was a commercial opportunity. And with all the growth here in Central Ohio, I was like, I want to play in my own backyard. And so I took the opportunity. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made because it's led to some opportunities that have been great, and this being one of them. So to build my network and my base within Westerville, I started reaching out to like the economic development, people that were on Chambers, people that were in Rotary, people that were with Westerville, just to meet people, introduce myself, let them know who I was. And then you start meeting business people within Westerville and then inside of 270. And so I started building that network. And some people said, hey, there's this thing that's called Leadership Westerville. You get to know more about it. And I know a lot about Westerville because I've been here since 94. I've seen it transform into what it is today.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, let me go through this and just get a little bit more insight. And maybe, to be honest with you, in the back of my mind, is like, maybe I'll meet somebody who can help me in the business realm.
Right.
And I accomplished both of those. I've met some business owners that I've struck up relationships with, people that work within the city of Westerville that I've built and started relationships with. And, just forging relationships and bridging people together is not only what I do for my career, but it's something I just naturally do. So that went through Leadership Westerville, which is a 9-month program, and I highly recommend it to anybody. Just speaking on my own behalf, I thought it was a great program. 9 months, 1 day a month. It's the first Wednesday of each month. You get to meet fire, police, people that run the city, learn about budgets, meet the city manager, the mayor. I mean, it was just really a great program. And so when I went through there, they talk about people who maybe potentially would sign up to be on some boards, some commissions and whatnot. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm interested. And so I went to one of those meetings. And then someone said, well, hey, you'd be pretty good at, doing some of this. You got the business mind. You've had kids go through the school system. You've been here for 30 plus years. I was like, well, yeah. Then I started putting that together with my 2 girls going to college and having some free time. And then someone said, well, hey, there's a thing that's called the Election Academy. And I'm like, well, what's that? By the chamber. So I went to Election Academy. It was just 3 weeks, 1 night a week. And they basically teach you how to put yourself out there for a campaign spot.
Yeah.
And so this whole time, it's the thought process is building. I'm kind of putting some things together, the fire and the stomach's starting to grow a little bit more. And then that first week, we're sitting there in the Election Academy and someone says, well, are you here to gain information, or are you running for a position? I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to run for it. And so at that point, that's when I said, I'm going to run for city council. I knew there was 4 spots open. I knew what the position entailed. But outside of that, I didn't. So I started researching and started looking online and talking to people. I met with, went and had lunch with former city council members. I've had lunch and met with current city council members. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to, give it 110%, as they say. And then we had this forum this past Thursday, and I was nervous.
Sure.
You can actually, if you watch it, you can kind of see the first two questions. I'm fidgety, I'm dry mouth, and I'm like, whoo. And
yeah.
Becky was actually sitting there, and she looked at me, and she kind of just gave me the, like, breathe, calm down, you're going to be okay.
Right.
So next thing you know, the third question came around. It just, something inside me just kind of felt like the blood pressure dropped and the calmness came over me. And I was like, all right, this is a conversation. Let's talk to these people. Let's communicate with them. And at the end, I had some people came up to me. They said, I did a great job. I'd never met them. I didn't know them. And, they really had no reason to come up to talk to me, but they did. And I appreciated that. And just to hear that. Yeah. But then afterwards, two individuals that are running for city council, one an incumbent, one a new person, came up, and they said it was great to hear and have the business perspective view in that meeting. And through this whole time, people I've talked to, they said we need business people. We need people that live here, that understand what it takes, and other attributes. And really, when you go down that list, I check all the boxes. I've been here for 3 decades. Now I'm a transplant. I grew up in Ashland, moved down here.
Sure.
But a lot of people do, and grew up here. Because when you say, I grew up here as a college student, as a teen who thought I knew everything, into my young 20s, top of the world. Hey, I got a degree. And life knocks you down a few steps and whatnot. I have a master's degree in business administration. My undergrad's from Otterbein, public relations and communication with a minor in business. I've taught academics, and I'm in the business world. I deal with business owners, people who have left a career and want to start a business, people who, want to expand, people want to give back. So like I said, I think if you go down that list, I check all those boxes.
Oh, that's great. So let's get into your vision for Westerville's future. What are your priorities for Westerville for these next 4 years and beyond?
Yes, that's a great question. First and foremost, my first priority is clear communication and transparency. There's been a couple questions and comments at City Hall, at City Council meetings, of prominent people within Westerville that you would think would have the knowledge and information that just doesn't seem to be passed on to the citizens and people of Westerville. Things that maybe have been voted on in the past that parents and people don't know about, topics and things that are on today's front burner. And I think as a community, we need to know about them. Another one is economic growth within Westerville and the preservation of green space. So in my career and what I do, I like I said, I work with business owners and businesses of all size. And there's a lot of desire for businesses to come into Westerville now. There's just really, at this point, not a lot of space or not a lot of buildings, for these business owners. Some of these business owners are currently located within Westerville and they need to expand. So the continued growth of economic development, and how do we do that, but yet at the same time protect our parks and rec? Westerville has a great reputation for that. So how do we maintain that? I know we have some environmental businesses within Westerville that can help the city study how to maintain natural preserve areas and also collect, maybe connect bike paths and parks together. For example, there's a lot of debate right now on the Africa Road project. In fact, when I was actually getting signatures to run for city council, my oldest daughter, one of her friends who's 20, she actually asked me a couple questions about my platform. And I had told her, well, my role, economic development growth. And she asked me about the Africa Road, and she was pretty upset about it because she was like, well, I'm about trees and, keeping green space and not just, cutting down trees to put down concrete. And so I asked her, I was like, well, how much do you know about the project? And she was like, not much. I just know that they're cutting down trees. And so we had a really good conversation, and it was pretty neat to see from a 20-year-old's perspective on what she thought about it. Now, I've had the opportunity to talk to people within the city, and I have learned some facts about that property. A lot of the trees that were cleared out were non-inhabitable trees. They brought in invasive species. So they cleared those out. There's going to be 3 ponds, waterways. They're planting over 700 trees that are actual species to this area of Ohio. So there's a lot that they're doing to preserve that green space, but also put in businesses to generate income for Westerville. And then community safety is another one. I fully support, making sure that the police, EMS, and fire have resources and everything that they need. I believe that that's a top priority, especially with the growth that Westerville is seeing and expecting over the next couple of years. I think traffic safety is another one. Just looking as traffic goes up through Uptown. And I don't know if there's a way that we can put in roundabouts on the north and south side of Uptown to maybe and get rid of some of the traffic lights so that way traffic continues to go. I don't know if they've had studies done on that. I don't know if there's a way to divert neighborhood traffic north and south of Uptown. Is there a way that we can create another bypass that connects maybe Cleveland Avenue and Sunbury Road so that diverts traffic? I don't know, but those are some studies and ideas, that people can think about. So,
right.
As far as preserving Westerville, I think Westerville's done a good job of doing that with the growth. And
with all of that in mind, are there particular city boards or committees that you see yourself contributing most effectively?
There's a few of them. I know on October 14th, they have a meeting in Westerville with all the open vacancies that are out there. There's 2 of them that I looked at. One of them is a zoning commission. Another one was with the Parks and Rec. And then there was also one, I believe it was for Uptown Review Board. So there was 3 of them that I'm interested in. I think the Uptown Review would probably be number 1. Parks and Recs would be 2, and then zoning 3. And I'm upfront with everybody when it comes to zoning. I don't have all the knowledge. That's the one. That's probably the biggest area or biggest deficiency I have. But going through this process, I've been educating myself through, pulling up past meetings online and whatnot. So,
right. And I think that's one thing that I've seen throughout this project, I'll call it, is, and maybe this is the same on any level, but local government and local politics specifically, you just find passionate people who do have so much to learn. But as long as you're willing to put in the effort and the commitment, that's what I'm looking for, right, when I'm casting my vote.
That's like when people get interviewed for a job and they get hired. When they come in on day one, they don't know everything about the company or the business or even the role. What they bring with them is education and experience within that industry, and then they bridge the 2 together and become not only a better person but a better employee, and that helps the business in turn serve the community, and it's all connected.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about clear communication. Because I think that is definitely a shared desire for everyone, right? Both from the community's perspective and also from council and local government perspective. But there is simply so much information out there. How do you recommend that council can be more transparent and more forthcoming with the information that they think, the community is most interested in?
I don't think it's what the city council should pass on what they think Westerville should know. I think Westerville needs to let the city council know. And I think that can be done by taking people's concerns and comments from the meetings that they have. They need to take the concerns from the citizens and address them, but then follow up with it. Mm-hmm. And I see this in the business world sometimes too, that you do all this work up front to get something started, gather information, and then you may be able to resolve it, but then that's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing that says, hey, we had this issue. This was the problem. Went to the community. The community said, yes, go ahead and fix it. Took the tax dollars and we fixed the problem. Okay, well, where'd you take the money from? How much did you take? And what did you actually fix? And let us know what that, length, what that's timeline is going to be, so we have an expectation and we can hold them accountable to it. they just say, yes, we have this issue, we're going to deal with it, and then they move on to the next topic, where they might say, yeah, we'll take it under consideration and review it. It's just left out there. And how do we know there's going to be any resolution or anything like that?
Right.
I think there's ways, as far as ways to communicate with people. I was actually thinking about this because my daughter came home from school, and I asked her, and this is about the second week of school, and I was like, well, what's going on? What's changed? Is there anything that we need to know? She's like, no. I'm like, well, okay, that's a kid answer.
Sure.
Then I started thinking about things. I'm like, well, if I want to know something about what's going on with the city, how do I know?
Right.
Well, if you get your electric bill, they'll have some things on there, but what if it's digital and it's automatic ACH and those payments come out and you never even see your electric bill? What kind of correspondence or what kind of biweekly or monthly correspondence is coming out to kind of, Westerville up to date or up to date Westerville, so we can know of topics. And maybe it's just, and it doesn't have to be very long, doesn't have to be very expensive. Can we increase that? Is there a publication or a Westerville podcast that's out there? So, the Rotary meetings, I know, work together with the city. So is there something that we can do with those? I just think there's a lot of avenues that maybe haven't been touched into when we're communicating to Westerville what's going on.
Right. And I think that's great. I think that's fair. I also have been saying more transparency, more clear information. And we hear this a lot from candidates and community too. But a piece of that is getting our community interested and involved, right? And so that's where this podcast was born, because I wanted to I wanted to learn more about local politics and what was happening, because I didn't know much. But two, make it more accessible to everyone else so that we can learn how to get involved and how to learn the information that we're seeking. And so I think that's will always be a challenge, right? You can always improve in communication. But if what we're hearing is that city council needs to follow through with just updates and certainly being more...
I think it needs to be timely.
Yes.
That's a
timely
key.
Communication. Yes.
Timely communication. You can't let things drag on and just become, more of a problem later down the road.
Right. That's fair. Moving on to another priority, how do you approach balancing fiscal responsibility with investments in the community, like parks and safety and infrastructure? What we were talking about before.
Westerville's done a good job of putting themselves in a position to sustain growth. And to sustain growth, you need to have money. I think the decisions of the mayor, city manager, previous council, they've done a good job of not only focusing on the needs of our citizens today, but hey, in 5-7 years, where we're going to be. So there's that continued balance of let's look at what the issues we have today, but also keep in mind how the decisions that we make today, are they sustainable, and will they benefit us 5 to 7 years down the road? If not, let's pivot from this and try to find a solution to that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, generating money from income tax. We have to balance the right businesses that are coming in to generate not only, you bring in new businesses, you're going to bring in new employees, you're going to bring in new residents. The residents in turn buy gas, groceries, supplies, clothes, everything from where they're at. So we have to balance that and make sure that we don't outpace ourselves. I think one area where Westerville kind of shorted themselves maybe 5-10 years ago was maybe not staying ahead of the population growth and looking at ways to build housing, so what's the focus on that? But continue to invest our money into financial tools that will help grow the money. So if Westerville has, certain funds set aside, how is that being maintained? How is that growing? Are there multiple times, maybe on a yearly basis, where Westerville looks out to say, hey, where can we move this to help generate more money? Is that being reviewed? Like I said, that's just an idea. That's a thought that I've had. But then also, to get businesses to come into Westerville, usually there's a tax break or some kind of incentive to get them in here. And in turn, that business has to provide a certain amount of revenue or a certain amount of employees or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Have we gone back over the last couple of years and looked at some of those businesses where we offered those tax breaks and those rewards, say, hey, you haven't held up your end of the bargain. And if so, Westerville needs to collect some of that money back that they gave them a break on. I think that that's a great idea, because if you go around and look at some of these big business parks that are empty, and like I said, I don't know if I don't know if that would generate a lot of income. But if we go back to some developers or big businesses that were given incentives to come here and they didn't uphold their end of the bargain, what can we recapture for them? I don't know if that's a cost-effective thing or not, to look into, if that would be wasting more dollars than what they could actually recoup. But that, like I said, it was an idea. And just continue to look for ways to sustain what Westville's doing without spending a lot of money. You're a parent, I'm a parent, you're a homeowner, I'm a homeowner. I mean, we have to continuously balance our budgets, adjust things to account for, nothing's become cheaper.
Right.
Every time you go somewhere, it's a little more expensive. And from Washington down, they're like, oh, lower prices, lower this, lower that. Gas is coming down. But every time I kind of see it, it's a little bit more. So we have to be smart with our money and make smart decisions. And sometimes when we say no, it sucks. And sometimes the city has to do that too. You can't appease everybody, because you have to not only take care of today, but look forward. And how are you going to have that money in 5 to 7 years if you're wasting it today?
And one perspective I've heard on that also is, if the city is able to invest in our services and, parks and community center and things like that, in turn, we can give our residents more opportunity to do things at low cost or free in some cases, right? So definitely something to balance there.
And I was just sitting here thinking, while we're having this conversation, maybe there's some things that Westerville does really well that we could contract out to surrounding neighborhoods, surrounding cities, townships, and reach out to these townships and neighboring cities and say, hey, what do you need? Well, we have those resources available now, so we will supply this resource for you. In turn, you give us money or access to something that would make Westerville better. So maybe it's not always about investing money, but go back to the old days when you barter and trade.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of ways, and I think that's my business perspective, that's my business mindset coming out to say, hey, how can we make this come alive? Let's look at all the different avenues. Let's play with the parts a little bit until we figure out the best way for it. And we might build it up, but then let's tear it down and redo it, because we figure out something along the way.
Yeah. Let's see here. So what do you see as the biggest challenges facing Westerville in the coming years, and how would you address them?
So I'm going to focus on two. There's more than just two, but I'm going to focus on two. And I already touched base on one, and that is our infrastructure, our traffic, and it's housing. I think as long as Westerville continues to do what they have been with the Parks and Rec, and with businesses coming in, and with making Westerville more self-sustainable, if they continue to do that, those areas will take care of themselves. But as far as infrastructure, we need to do something with the traffic, because with more people coming in, it's becoming more congested, more dangerous, especially through Uptown. I'd mentioned, doing studies to see if we could put some roundabouts before the south point of Uptown and the north point, get rid of some of the traffic lights, so that way traffic continues to flow without the start and stop. Is there ways that we can divert some of the neighborhood traffic, to go a little bit further north and south and then come back into town? Are there connection points that we can make to maybe divert some of the traffic east and west instead of always going north and south? Can we spread out the lights a little bit further? Can we change the amount of time between red and green in certain areas to help the flow of traffic? And as we continue to build new businesses, new neighborhoods, we're going to have to add infrastructure, roads, sidewalks, bike paths for people to get around. So I think that's something that we really need to focus on. The other is housing, and I've heard a lot of different perspectives and ideas on housing. I'm going to go on a little tangent here, but I think it really will bring what I have to say into perspective. So when I graduated college, I didn't have money to afford to live in Westerville. 22, 23 years old, you come out, you're a college student, and people say we need to make Westerville affordable for everybody. Oh, I agree with that. Westerville should be affordable. But you can't expect a 23, 24-year-old student to come out of college and buy a home in Westerville. It's just not realistic. So Becky and I, we came out of Otterbein. We lived just south of Westerville. It was just across from Minerva Park. So it was Columbus Taxes, Westerville Schools, and something else. Well, we worked for a few years, 4, 5, 6 years. Well, actually, and we thought we'd sell the house and move. 15 years later, we finally sold the house and moved into Westerville. So now we're Westerville City Schools, we're all that stuff. But my point is, you can't expect someone 23, 24 to graduate college and come in and buy a home. So we need to make, if you want to make affordable housing for that age bracket of students, let's take some of the old business parks and turn them into studios and 1-2 bedroom apartments. They're already there. They've got the plumbing, the electric. And we can turn those into sustainable living environments where now businesses for young generations can come in. You have restaurants and bars, and maybe some clothing stores and a barbershop or hairstylists. And then another part of town, maybe put in a different phase of life living. So not only, people say we have to have affordable housing for the young and for people where young families are getting started. We have a huge population that's getting older. So we're going to have a lot of these older individuals probably selling their homes because realistically, the older you get, you don't need the bigger home. Your kids have moved away. It's time to downsize. So do we have nice, affordable housing for older individuals? So we have to think, do we have the housing for that age bracket? So as we think about this, we have to be realistic of the population that can afford Westerville. I mean, we all want nice neighborhoods, nice houses. That's why we all work, to sustain that. And we can't expect to just put in some housing to satisfy a group. We have to be thoughtful about it. We have to understand, okay, if we put in, 12 to 1,500 residents, how's that going to affect the infrastructure? How's that going to affect our schools? Well, now we also have to think about in the budget, we now are going to have to build another fire station or an EMS station, police station. So the two areas of concern, just to kind of wrap that up, again, like I said, is the infrastructure and how we can maintain that and kind of ease the stress on Uptown Westerville and surrounding areas. And then housing, making it affordable for people to live here, come here, yes, but also preserving what the people of Westerville have already built.
Right. As a parent, what other lessons from raising your family do you think translate into your leadership style or perspective on community?
Well, I know one thing for sure, and that is I'm always wrong, according to my daughters.
Right.
So let's get that out of the way first. The one thing I've known from raising my daughters is my ability to step back and take a look at things from their perspective. And like I said, I'm going to be 50 in February, and I have my perspective on things. I'm stubborn. I live in my ways, but what it is about today's youth that makes them tick, that make them go. And raising 3 girls definitely helped with my patience. Understanding the different thought process between men and women. You really see that as you're, instilling the things that you want to in your kids, and getting their perspective. I tell my girls every day, they can do whatever they want. The only person that's going to stop them is themselves. But I also, I have a tattoo on my arm, and it's of a baby lion and then the male lion behind it. And the whole meaning of that is for my girls to basically don't be afraid of what's in front of you because of what's behind you. And I think what I've taught them, my dad and grandmother taught me, is do unto others as you want it done unto you. Just be helpful, be kind, be considerate, but also stand your ground. Don't let people push you over. I mean, I think if you ask, people be like, hey, my parents taught me this, their grandparents. And that's the one thing that I think families had passed down is we all try to be respectful and kind to others. And I think the majority of us are. There's a few that don't, and those are the ones that make the noise.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have the same goal. We want to have a family. We want to enjoy life. We want to go on a vacation or do something like that. We want to not have to worry about the street lights coming on. We don't have to worry about garbage being picked up. We want to feel safe when our kids go to school. We want to feel safe when our kids are on a fourth Friday when we're in uptown Westerville. And we all want that. It doesn't matter what background you have or where you moved in from or what your culture perspective is or what your religion is. And we all want that. So how do we continue to sustain that? And I think that's where city council comes in. How do we continue to sustain the population growth in Westerville so we can continue to have more businesses, more homes, which in turns leads us to more money that we can put back into the community, put back into the schools, revamp the schools, make them more competitive as far as our education levels, our testing scores, and the amenities that the kids have, the new engineering labs that they have at North, all the new things that they just put in the Westerville South with all the upgrades that they did there, the programs that they have, the theater and the arts. Let's continue to reinvest in those. And to do that, city council has to make sure that the city continues to operate. One, operate within the budget. Two, make sure that everything that needs support has support. And three, we have the best interest of the people in Westerville.
That's great. So what differentiates you from our other candidates?
I think the biggest difference that I have between my opponents and myself is my business acumen. 30 years working with business owners, working with businesses that are looking to grow, transform. I think looking at different styles of leadership and how those businesses operate, I've learned. If you look back at my time as a football official, the leadership there and the responsibilities that you have to take, you never have the right call as an official. So people are always mad at you or angry. I think my experience as being an educator at the collegiate level for Columbus State and seeing, what today's issues and problems are, how we can fix them, and how today's youth are learning to fix those problems going forward. And if you just wrap that all up, I've led teams as small as 2 or 3 people. I've managed teams into the teens and 20s. So I'm able to handle different perspectives, different ideas, bring them together as a team, and foster new ideas. And then along that road, you forge new relationships, you build new relationships. So I think that's where I stand out.
That's great. So if you win a seat on city council, what questions can I come back with in 4 years to measure your success?
In 4 years, if I win a seat in 4 years and you come back and say, hey, Preston, I have some questions for you. I think the first one should be about the communication and transparency. That's been my number one topic, and need to make sure that people are accessible to me. And if they ask me questions or if they have issues, one, did I respond? And two, did we get a result? And sometimes the result might be good. Other times it might not be favorable, but did we get a result? And when we get that result, pass that information on to them as why. Another question is Westerville still safe? Did city council do enough to ensure that we have EMS, fire, police? Is uptown safe? Are our schools safe? We continue to develop new parks, new trails for the city of Westerville. And then as issues arise over the next 4 years and we confront them, did we resolve them? And there will probably be more questions out there, and some people will have differing opinions. But I think in 4 years, if elected, I think we'll see progress, steady progress, sustainable progress, and a city that can communicate in different ways with everybody.
Mm-hmm. So to that point, right, Westerville is a growing community with diverse perspectives. How will you work across those differences to try to achieve consensus?
I think to resolve the differences, you first have to understand what the difference is. What is it that's keeping somebody from agreeing with you? Is it a policy? Is it a process? Is it a statement or a wording or language of something? And then once you understand what the issue is, try to resolve it. I was always told that when you negotiate, at the end of that negotiation, if both people walk away unhappy, you had a successful negotiation, because you always have to give up something to get something in return. So healthy conversation, healthy discussion is great. It leads to ideas. It leads to results. I think if the people who are elected come in with just the idea of serving city council and serving Westerville instead of bringing in an agenda, I think we can minimize a lot of those differences.
Do you have an example in mind? An agenda?
I can't speak on anybody's behalf. I can only go on what I've seen, what I've heard, and interpret it myself. When I came into this campaign, I've never run for a campaign before. My name had never been out there before like this. But going through this, you talk to people, you educate yourself, you listen. You can pick some things up. And just through social media and some of the activity through town, you see some individuals working together. You see others who express their agenda through the forum. I don't have an agenda. My platform is to run for city of Westerville, Preston for Westerville, and that's what it is. Yes, I do have a platform of things I'd like to maintain, to focus on, but otherwise than that, it's just, let's do what's good for Westerville. I've lived here over 30 years now. I love it. My kids have gone to school through the Westervilles. My wife and I have grown up through Westerville. She has a photography business. She also has a thing called Uptown for Pups that she does. So we're involved in different ways. And I just want that and want to keep Westerville moving forward. So like I said, I think, there are agendas out there that people, would like to instill, but it doesn't belong with city council.
Okay. What is one thing you believe Westerville does exceptionally well today that you would want to preserve and protect as the city continues to grow?
Westerville does a lot of things great. The preservation of Uptown, the promotion of Otterbein, the development of Parks and Rec and bike trails, what they've done over the last 10 years with giving us the accessibility to restaurants and places to go out. Just continue that. We don't have to recreate the wheel. It's working. We can see it. You can just go uptown, go talk to people. The Cohatch, North High Brewing, High Banks, the restaurants, the facilities around town. And with these new businesses and the different cultures that are coming in, you're starting to see different things instead of just the old antique stores uptown. There's now variety, which is, to me, the variety is the spice of life. But like I said, I don't think Westerville needs to reinvent the wheel. Just continuing what we're doing. Do it a little bit better. Think about the sustainability. Think about 5, 7, 10 years down the road. But get the community involvement and be clear with them. Let them know what we're thinking, what we're doing, and then let's do it.
That's great. So where can we find you this fall as you're campaigning, and where can our listeners learn even more about you?
So I work in Uptown. You'll see me out and about. You can always reach me at prestonforwesterville@gmail.com. That's PRESTON, the number 4, WESTERVILLE@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook at Preston for Westerville. I'll be out at Fourth Friday in September, in October, so I'll be out and about there. I will be sharing some videos on Facebook. I'll be taking some of the questions that the forum asked us, and we were only given 1 minute, so I'm going to expand on those a little bit, give a little bit more in-depth look into who Preston is, what makes him tick, so people kind of get to know. I've got some yard signs coming in next week. But yeah, the best way is, like I said, Preston for Westerville at Gmail. And Facebook, Preston for Westerville. My daughter's told me to get on Instagram, so I'm on Instagram as well. I don't know how to work it, but you'll probably see some stuff there.
I think that's good advice.
In fact, once I created it, my oldest daughter sent me a text. She's, "Hey, you finally listened to me." And I was like, yeah, you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Now, what about TikTok?
Yeah, I have not gotten it yet. Actually, a real quick thing. I don't know how much time we have left, but my daughters regularly include me in their TikToks, which I have come to accustom to say, okay, embarrass dad time. But this summer, we did a TikTok, and my second oldest came to me and she's like, "Hey, there's this TikTok out. It's like 30 seconds. I think it would be really great." I was like, "You just want to make fun of me?" She's like, "No, this would be great." And it was something about, dads who didn't think that they would be girl dads.
Okay.
And so I have 3 daughters, 3 bedrooms. We started in one where I'm like looking at all the makeup, the other one looking at all the clothes. And it was a real funny skit. And a couple days later, my daughters came to me. We're at almost 1,000 likes. We're like at 500 shares. And I was like, "Really?" They're like, "Yeah, this thing's blowing up." And I'm like, when I post something on Facebook, I get 2 likes. I'm like, yes.
Right.
A week goes by. We're at over 100,000 shares. I'm like, no way. They're like, and every week, every couple of days, the likes and shares is kept coming up.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to have these numbers exact if there's a fact checker out there or something, but we have I want to say it was well over 1 million, almost 2 million shares.
Wow.
And several 100,000 likes.
That's awesome.
So I am on TikTok because of my daughters. I am on a billboard in Westerville, but that's through my work. So every once in a while I'll get a call from somebody. They'll be like, "Are you at a billboard?" I'll be like, "Yeah, I am." It's up there on Cleveland Avenue in Schrock behind the old Big Bear. But yeah, I live in Westerville, Spring Grove. Walk the dog in the neighborhood. I was at the Friday night football game up at North. So you'll see me out and about. A real grassroots campaign, talking to people, shaking hands. But I'll use social media and digital to help. Like I said, I'll be putting out yard signs. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out via email or on Facebook.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So my question is, how can I find that TikTok? Can you post it on your Facebook?
You know what? Let me. I'll have to get with. I'll have to learn.
You need to consult your IT team.
Let me consult my IT team and get that on Preston for Westerville, because that just might put me over the top.
Right. There you go. Well, thank you so much for your time, Preston. This has been great getting to know you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you out in the community.
Well, Bethany, I appreciate your time, the invitation, and I appreciate the citizens of Westerville who will hopefully vote for me. Thank you.